Good morning, boys and girls, and mommies and daddies, and grandmommies and grandpoppies. Today we're going to finish up the story of the art project because we didn't get to do it Friday. So, wow, you know, the boys and girls had worked really hard on their art project, and they were so proud of it. It was really, really pretty. So, you know, they got through with the board on the right side of the classroom, and they were finishing about this much more of the board on the back of the classroom. Because remember, the picture went all around like a square or like a corner. And so Patty Pig says, Miss Eileen, what are we going to do with that blank space where the corner is? You know, where the corner is, what are we going to do with that? And she says, well, I've got it all figured out. She says, when we take it down, and we have to take it down very carefully, she says, I'm going to have two of you children come up and you're going to color in that little bit of the corner. Oh, goody, 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 goody. She says, I was so worried. And Miss Eileen says, now, don't you worry. She says, I've got it all figured out. So with that, the corner, not the corner, but the end of the picture was finished. Oh, it was beautiful. And for being in the first grade, all of these children did so good with it. Oh my goodness gracious. Miss Eileen, she looked around to the whole thing and she goes, I just don't know. This is just beautiful. I can't get over it. You boys and girls have done such a great job. I think we should all clap for everybody. So the class did. And oh, they just went wild. And they hollered and they cheered and they hollered and they cheered. And Miss Eileen says, okay, quiet down, quiet down. Now, she says, I'm going to rely on my two tallest boys, Allie the Alligator, Little Bad Wolf. You come up here and I'll tell you what I want you to do. Now, Allie, since you unrolled it with me, I'm going to have Little Bad Wolf roll it up with me. But what I want you to do is I want you to take off the tape on the top and the bottom, and the top and the bottom. And we'll go around the two boards and we'll very carefully take that down. So she took off the first tape at the back of the board and she rolled it carefully, and Allie the Alligator, he's taking it down the tape, and Little Bad Wolf is holding on to it very carefully, and they get to the spot in the corner. Okay? So she says, Patty Pig, I want you to come up here and hold this roll that I've got in my hand. Now, boys, we're going to go on the other side, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So they rolled it up, and they took the tape off, and Little Bad Wolf, he was holding it very carefully, and they rolled it up, and they got to the corner. So now they're like this far apart. And so they very carefully carried the rows over to her desk because her desk was so big. And she says, okay, let me see now. Thelma. Now, that was a little girl that lives in town. She says, Thelma, I've been watching your work, and you do very good work. Thank you. Because Thelma was kind of shy. And this is another reason why Miss Eileen picked Thelma, because she wanted Thelma to feel real good about all of her work that she had done. And so she said, Frankie Fox, I want you and Thelma to come up to the desk, and you are going to fill in our little corner space. Oh my goodness gracious, was that an honor? Oh, Frankie Fox and Thelma just thought they were just so the bestest in the class. And they were pretty good. They were pretty good. So they very carefully colored all the rest of the sidewalk and the street. And there was a little girl in the picture in that corner, and there was a sun, and there was a couple of flowers. Oh my goodness gracious. I guess that wasn't a sun. I guess that's a cloud up there. Boy, Miss Eileen thought it was a sun too. Anyway, they got it all colored. So she says, okay, I'll finish rolling it up after class. So they would continued on with their school work, and they did their arithmetics, and they did their 1, 2, 3s, and Miss Eileen was reading them a story every afternoon. Well, she wasn't when they were doing the art project, but she had already started. So they had their afternoon story, and it was a really good story. I'm not sure exactly what book she read, but I know she told me she was reading them a book after, at the last period before class got through. So the bell rang, and they all ran out to their cars, and they were real excited because they knew Miss Eileen was going to take their picture down to the office, and the lady in the office was going to send it out. The principal was waiting on it because their class was one of the last ones to get it turned in. There was another first grade class that was even later. They may not even get theirs sent in if they don't hurry up. And Mommy Pig says, well, that's just too bad. And Squiggly says, well, you know how our first graders are, And Mommy Piggy laughed, and she said, yes, I know. Well, the next day at school, the first question that everybody asked Miss Eileen, did you get it down to the office? Did the principal send it out? Did they? And she says, shh, relax, boys and girls. Yes, the principal sent it out, and we will hear back from it in 4 weeks. 4 weeks? Oh my goodness gracious. Oh, the children just moaned and groaned and said, 4 weeks? We'll be old by then. And Miss Eileen says, no, you won't be old. It'll pass pretty quick. Well, the first week, Miss Eileen concentrated on their ABCs. And by the end of the week, everybody in the class could write their ABCs. Oh, this was probably the smartest first grade class that Miss Eileen had ever taught. I mean, they were just fantastic kids. They were just really great kids. So the next week, week number 2, she said, okay, boys and girls, this week we're going to concentrate on our reading. I want everybody up to their level in reading. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So she started with the first person in the first row, and her name was Shirley, and she had to read a sentence, and then the next person behind her read the next sentence, and so forth and so on and so on. And of course, Miss Eileen called their names each time to make sure that they were paying attention. Well, when you do it that way, you really got to read along with the rest of the class, because you got to follow the words so that you can learn them, and you also got to follow where you're at in the story, so when it's your turn to read, you won't be lost. So that accomplished quite a few things. And some of the boys and girls got lost, of course. And the other ones were right on, they knew right where it was, and they knew most of the words. So she went back and she read it to them. And then she made them, the next day she made them read it all over again, one by one by one. Well, the 4th day, she divided the class in half. So these 2 rows here got to read the first paragraph, the whole paragraph. And these 2 rows here read the second paragraph. Now, that's a big I mean, they started out at the beginning of the week just reading one word in each sentence and went around the room, and then they read the whole sentence, and now they're reading the whole paragraph. Oh my goodness gracious sakes. Miss Eileen says, I think that you need to get an award for being the smartest first grade class. And they all smiled and says, what's our reward? And she says, you know what? She says, I think I will send out for a pizza. And we're going to have a pizza delivered to us. Oh my goodness gracious. They had never heard of anybody in school getting a pizza delivered to their class. I mean, even the big kids they knew in the 6th grade didn't get pizzas delivered to their class. So maybe they're not too smart. That's what Squiggly said. And Allie the alligator says, I think you're right, Squiggly. And Miss Eileen says, now, boys, you be good. Well, there was a knock on the door. And all the kids were all excited because they figured that was a pizza man. And Miss Eileen opened the door. Uh-oh. SpaghettiOs. There stands the principal, Mrs. Lee. Uh-oh, what did she want? And Mrs. Lee came in and she said, boys and girls, I have some news that I hope will be good news. And they sat and they listened real careful. And she said, the art committee is not finished judging yet, but they phoned me this morning and they told me that this class's picture was one of the best ones that they had judged so far. And I just want to let you boys and girls know that. Oh, they all started to jabber back and forth, and they were just so excited. They were so excited. And Miss Eileen says, thank you, Mrs. Lee. Thank you very, very much for those nice, kind words. And Mrs. Lee says, okay, boys and girls, bye-bye. So she went out the door, and just about 5 minutes later comes another knock on the door. And it had to be the pizza boy. Well, it was, or the pizza man. He comes in with this great, big, huge pizza. Oh, it was the biggest pizza that any of the children had ever seen in their life, because after all, there's 25 kids in the class, so it had to fit 25 people, 26 counting the teacher, Miss Eileen. Sure enough, it was 26 little, well, they were pretty big pieces because the pizza was huge. Oh, everybody had a good time eating the pizza. Oh my goodness gracious. It was wonderful pizza. It had pepperoni on it. It had sausage on it. It had black olives on it. It had tomatoes on it. It had even anchovies on it. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh, it was such a good pizza. Wow, makes GrandMommy hungry for a pizza. Anyway, they got finished with the pizza, and so she says, okay, next week is our 3rd week, so it's getting close to, you know, finding out whose poster or whose picture was the best one. So the 3rd week, they worked on their arithmetic. Now, some of you boys and girls call it math, but in the little schools, it's called arithmetic. So they did their numbers, and they did their 1 plus 1s, and their 2 plus 2s, and their 2 plus 1s. Oh, they just did all kind of combinations, and they worked up into the number 10. And when you add 10 and 5 together, oh my, you have to count on your hands sometimes. It's so high. It's such a big number. Well, Miss Eileen was again absolutely, totally surprised at how quick these kids caught on to their numbers, because arithmetic's kind of hard sometimes. Oh my gosh sakes. Friday came and they all had a little test and they passed it. The lowest grade was an 85. And the highest grade was, of course, 100. So they said to Miss Eileen, okay, next week is our 4th week, so we ought to be hearing from the picture person. And Miss Eileen says, well, probably by the end of the week. And so Ollie the Otter raised his hand and he says, Miss Eileen, what are we going to work on next week? And she says, well, I think next week should be a review. A review on how to read and how to do your arithmetic and how to do your letters. I think that would be a good idea, don't you? And so Monday and Tuesday, we will review our letters, how to make our letters, how to make an A and how to make a B. And I have a feeling that you kids will get through finished early those days. And then Wednesday and Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday will be a review on your arithmetic because that's the hardest. And then Friday, we will spend all day reading. I will read to you and you will read to me. Oh, goodness gracious sakes. When Monday came and they went to school, they were so nervous because they kept looking out the door and out the windows to see if anybody was coming. Maybe they had a message about their art project and they were so nervous. And Miss Eileen kept saying, now be quiet. Shh, let's try to work now. Well, they finally got through of all their work, Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. Oh boy. They hadn't heard anything yet. And they thought, I guess we didn't win anything. I guess our picture wasn't pretty enough. And some of the boys and girls were crying because they had worked so hard on that picture and they wanted to know what happened. Miss Eileen kept hugging the boys and girls and she says, now don't worry. She said, the principal is going to come down and tell everybody about their scores. She says, so don't worry. We've still got 15 minutes before the bell rings. Oh boy, they were watching the clock up on the wall and it was slowly creeping around and creeping around. And now it was 10 minutes before the bell rang. Oh, they just knew it wasn't going to be good news. And 5 minutes before the bell rang, there was a knock on the door, and Miss Eileen opened up the door, and there stood the principal, Mrs. Lee. And she walked in, and she had a big smile on her face, and she says, well, now, boys and girls, our school has won an honor. Now, as you remember, I'm sure Miss Eileen told you, but you were in a contest with the kindergarten, all the first grades, and all the second grades. And we have 3 kindergarten classes, we have 3 first grades, and we have 3 second grades. So you were in competition with those 3 grades. And I am very pleased to tell you, boys and girls, but this class, your class, won the first prize. What do we get? What do we get? What do we get? What do we get? And she says, well, calm down, boys and girls. She says, you don't get anything, but what you get is that your picture, your beautiful picture, is now sent into the state contest. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. the state contest with all the other little kindergartens in the second grade and the first grade. So their first grade was going to go against all the other first graders, and the kindergartens was going to go against all the other kindergartens, and the second grade would go against all the other second graders. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Miss Eileen says, oh, whew. She says, when will we hear back from that? And Mrs. Lee says, next week. And boys and girls, that's going to be the end for the day. We'll see what comes next. Who knows? And anybody can leave a comment on the bottom of this page to see if you like it or you don't like it, the story for the day. Okay, we will see you Wednesday. Bye-bye.